We got a bidet!
Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, we're talking about The Bad Batch, the latest episode that is. I forget which episode we are on personally.
Number 9, I believe.
Is it 9? Yep, number 9, because we had 7 and 8 last week. And in my opinion, we probably get, at least for now, it seems kind of like a filler type arc. And I say it that way for a specific reason. And Sarah is going to tell us why. And we will see probably towards the end of what she's going to have to say about the episode to know why I called it an arc. So, Sarah, what happened this week?
All right. So our current Bad Batch team, which is our normal team minus Echo, right? So they show up at a mine that Sid purchased so that they can mine for Ipsium, which is a highly valuable mineral, but also very explosive. So you got to be real careful. Omega and Wrecker were in charge of being the lookouts to make sure that no raiders snuck up on them, but Omega was needed because of her small body to reach into small places so that she could get the Ipsium. So despite Wrecker being on lookout still, the team's ship gets stolen, and you hear the noise and you see it fly away, and it's like, oh my goodness, Wrecker, what were you doing? So without their ship, they don't really have a way home, right? So they see the nearest town and they start heading that way, but there's this like a crazy desert storm that's also heading their way. They get stuck in an animal stampede, very similar to that of the Lion King, and they narrowly escape without getting any damage to anybody. Even the Ipsium doesn't get damaged. The storm rolls in, and the Ipsium gets left behind while they all duck into another mine for cover. And the storm actually throws the Ipsium up at the entrance for that mine. And like I said, it's explosive, right? So that whole mine entrance just collapses with all this rock and rubble. Omega's really struggling this episode. She's having a hard time with the loss of Echo, knowing he's not dead, but he's not with the team anymore. She finds out that he turned off his comm link and, basically is going to be really on his own. Like, you can't even talk to me right now, which is really bothersome, especially for someone her age who doesn't fully understand what's going on. And then at the same time, they lost their ship, which to her, that's their home. So she's really dealing with that. And who is the polar opposite of all that is going to be Tech. He doesn't have any real emotion that he shows. So they kind of butt heads a little bit. Omega finds this giant amount of Ipsium in this new mine, like way more than what was in the mine that Sid purchased. So she goes and she's trying to extract as much as she can. Tech is kind of there to try to smooth things over and help her out. She tries to reach for this like last little bit, but she's reaching over the cliff edge and reaching over the cliff edge and being really dangerous and really scary. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. But what does she do? She falls off the cliff. Lucky for her, it's not just a rock bottom at the bottom of that cliff, it's water. Tech actually jumps in after her to try to help save her from whatever it is, because it's this deep, dark hole. You can't really see from the cliff what's down there. So they basically are in this underground river, and it's flowing so fast they can't swim against it. But they shoot out this little waterfall into like a pond, if you will, but all still in the cave. They're able to contact Wrecker and Hunter to gather their gear and meet them down at the bottom of that pond and use some of the Ipsium that Omega had mined so that they can blow their way out of the cavern and find their way out. So after they get out, they eventually do reach the town that they were going after. They find out that it's been abandoned for a very long time and there's nobody around. Um, so what do you do at that point, right? So they call Sid for help. Sid is very hesitant and is trying to say you need to just do it on your own, and you guys got yourselves in this mess. It's not my fault your ship got stolen. Figure it out. But eventually they kind of convinced her, and I think really more Omega than anything, because she was kind of looking in Omega's direction when she changed her mind. But she said, fine, I'll help you, but it's gonna be a few days. And that's where the episode cuts off. So, Jeremy, what are your thoughts on this episode?
Well, I was looking up how many episodes are in this season. I'm trying to get an idea of where we're at. Let's see.
I've been wondering that same question myself.
I thought it was like 16. Let's see, how many episodes? Okay, I don't care about the first season. Oh, season 2 will have 16 episodes. So we're on episode 9 of 16. So we're past the halfway point. My initial thoughts from this episode, because we typically watch them twice. I was kind of bored just because it's unfortunate, because once I realize it's a filler episode, part of my brain almost shuts off from the episode. And then, especially with almost a shot for shot replication of what happened in the Lion King for this what is it called, a gorge?
Sounds about right.
I feel like that's what they called it in the Lion King. Um it seemed slightly uninspired at first, like they just cheated and copied off of Disney's homework kind of a thing. So that kind of took excuse me, took me out of it.
Are you saying Disney copied off their own homework?
I'm just saying Lucasfilm copied off of Disney's homework. I think there's technically like different buildings, but yeah, I would say they definitely copied off their homework, or what is that? Self-plagiarism? Is that what it is? At least for the first 5 or 6 minutes of the episode. It was to the point where I was predicting what the shot was gonna be, and sure enough, it was. There was, like I think either the Ipsium or Wrecker, I want to say it was Wrecker, was like everybody made it up onto the little branch thing, like the Lion King, and except for Wrecker, right? The big dude of the group with the important stuff. And they even like copied the shot where everybody was, or like Simba, the one person, was safe, and he's like looking around at the wildebeest as they're like trampling over. In this case, it's Wrecker, but in Lion King's case, it was Mufasa. It was the same shot, and then just Wrecker randomly jumps out and grabs onto the cable to get into his safety. Um, which
We
again,
did get a fun line right there where Tex said, "You must protect the Ipsium case." And Rucker says, "What about protecting me?"
yeah, Wrecker usually has the good one-liners, and it's like, you know what? That's true, but then when Tex said, well, if we don't get it, we're all gonna die. And it's like, kid's got a point. That's a reference to a past episode. So it was it a bad sequence? No, but it did kind of take me out of it a little bit, just because I'm like, all right, this is a filler episode. All right, they're copying something else. It because it felt slightly uninspired from the get-go. It did bother me. The one thing that I thought was interesting about this episode was that um, I feel like Sid is starting to show her true colors. We saw in a couple episodes ago a character tell the Bad Batch, like, watch your back, because Sid isn't all she is cracked up to be, so to speak. And with this episode, it almost seemed like she's starting to get frustrated with the Bad Batch's lack of ability to complete their missions. And part of me wonders if this is kind of like us seeing the turning point of uh, Sid turning her back on the Bad Batch. Or maybe she's going to find out that she can make more money by turning them in as opposed to employing them. So who knows? But that's my guess so far. So what I thought about the episode, it was okay. I didn't think it was anything special, but it wasn't the worst, I guess. I don't know. What do you think?
I had a very different take on it. I understand the Stampede thing being kind of a been there, done that before, but to me, it was a really small piece of the episode. Um, I thought this episode was fun. I thought it was an adventure, and that's what I was really missing from last week's double episode feature. Um, there just wasn't as much fun as what I'm used to seeing from the Bad Batch. So to see them kind of back in action, I thought was a nice change from what we had seen most recently. Um, and I really like seeing the poking and the playing with Tech's humanity. Maybe that's a little cruel to say the way that I said it, but uh, you know, showing that he does have emotions and trying to get him to actually show them and open up a little bit about what he's feeling and, being able to communicate with this child being Omega and how to deal with that. I don't know. I like seeing people being pushed to their emotional limits to try to figure out like, no, you can talk about this. Let's figure this out together. Instead of just, putting it somewhere, putting your feelings somewhere aside and just kind of burying it and pretending it doesn't exist. Um so, you know, Wrecker, him and Omega get along super well. Hunter's kind of like that dad figure. I like that we're exploring more with her relationship with Tech. Um, and then in terms of Sid, I think you made some really good points too about what's going to happen with her. I don't really have a whole lot more to add to that, but I'm curious to see where it goes. And to me, this was one of our first cliffhanger episodes. You could technically say last week was a cliffhanger episode, but it was also a double feature, so there was no like cliffhanger. It was just, okay, there's a commercial break in between two episodes. Now let's watch the next one. Whereas this one, I actually want to see what happens next week because it's dependent on what happened this week. And I'm not sure that we've really seen that, or if we have, it's only been once or twice. So um, I like that it's something different than what we've been seeing.
Gotcha. So I mentioned in the couple things in the beginning of our talk, I mentioned that this was an arc and not just a filler episode. That's in reference to when Sarah said that we actually had a cliffhanger. It is clearly going to be a multi-episode story arc, so maybe something will pan out where like this is just the beginning and it'll get a little more interesting for me. I mean that the other thing I was going to say is that I literally looked it up, and between the beginning of the episode and the end of that stampede thing, it was a third of the episode. So it did have a significant chunk. It wasn't like just a couple minutes. Um, so it is what it is, but I thought it was kind of significant. Uh Let's see. Is there anything else about the episode we should talk about? Oh, well, I think you kind of did you mention that their ship was stolen and not just the fact that it's gone?
I believe so.
So I can't remember hearing if you said stolen or just that it was gone. Because I definitely heard you say it was gone.
Either way, it was stolen.
Right. So what I'm wondering is, are these people on planet? Are they gonna like are they gonna happen to run into the people that stole their ship, or are they gonna have a scenario like the Mandalorian where their ship is gone and they need to find something completely new, and that will be their ship from now on. Kind of like how Mando, lost the Razor Crest, and now he has the Naboo Starfighter. So curious to see where that plot point goes as well. I think that's
If they do need a new ship, though, they certainly don't have the funding for it.
no. I feel like Sid is paying them just enough so that they stay around, but they aren't given enough money to have their own freedom.
Mm-mm.
So I think that's kind of her capitalist way of controlling them, so to speak.
Well, in her eyes, or how she's trying to spin it, is that you're paying off your debt and also you're buying my silence.
Yeah. Which is another reason why I think once she realizes that the profitability of having them around isn't there anymore, I think she's going to turn and sell them out. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was the one, because she gave them a mission. Not only did they blow up some of her, was it Ipsium?
Ipsium.
Ipsium. um, Not only did they destroy some of her products, but they probably, destroyed part of her little mine area, considering that that was a different mine area, I suppose.
It was the different one, and they mined way more, and what Tech said was a purer strand than what was in Sid's mine. So I think they're coming back with more than what they planned for. They just don't have their ship anymore.
But it would be kind of cool to see a double cross where they come back and they're like, "We got even what's something that's even better for you," and then turns out the Empire is behind her or something, and they have to deal with that. We're gonna have some sort of closing arc with the last couple episodes, is my hope, and maybe that could be a decent setup for a good set of 2 or 3 episodes. So we'll just have to wait and see. Anything else you want to say about this episode?
No, I think that about wraps it up.
All right.
Wrecker's still my
Well,
favorite.
what's that?
I said Wrecker's still my favorite.
Oh yeah, Wrecker's probably gonna stay the favorite. Um,
He's the source of humor.
yeah, really nobody else except Tech has his moments, but it's like super dry humor. Like you really have to be paying attention, and you have, what is that? If you know, you know. We've talked about that even with other things. So yeah, we can't lose Wrecker because he's the funny one of the group, whether he is trying to be or not. But that's about it for this episode. Again, this was episode 9 so far, and we got 7 more to go. So we'll just have to wait and see. I think the last 2 get released together. So probably about 6 more weeks of the Bad Batch coming out on Disney Plus. But if you enjoy this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you are alerted when more of these drop. Some other things to be excited about for notifications is we have the man himself coming back in a couple, 2 weeks, isn't it? March 1st?
Yeah, I think so.
It's 1 week from Wednesday. So it is less than 2 weeks away. And we have Mando season 3 coming out, and we will be covering that for sure. I know we are very excited. So again, if you like these talks, make sure you have your notifications turned on. Drop us a like if you liked the video, and drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts on the Bad Batch from this week, episode 9. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.